love bug over here is not feeling so hot.
Do you remember the show Lamb Chop?
Like the Lamb Chop, the puppet?
Yeah.
Don't remember the show, but I know Lamb Chop.
Do you know the song that was famous from that show? This is the song that never ends.
I didn't know it was from
Well,
that.
yesterday when I woke up with this new symptom, I was like, this is the cold that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend.
I'm so glad you started singing.
Anyways, when this episode comes out, I'm going to be tip-top shape.
Tippity-top.
Ready for the new moon.
That's right. So we are doing an episode on the energy of getting started without knowing the outcome, the ending, the destination necessarily.
Yeah. I think this is going to be not only a fun episode where we can do some storytelling about how we have applied these themes in our own life, but I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this on many levels because it also coincides nicely with coming out of winter and hibernation and coming into spring and that energy that starts to come from the earth and then riding that in conjunction with the new moon, which will be also coming. And there's a lot of symbolism between those two.
We have a new moon on the 19th. And I think a lot of this, to your point, is about trusting. Like when you do go out, like if you ever planted wildflowers, right, from seed, and you go out and you plant the seeds and you never know what it's going to look like when everything is in full bloom, but you know it's going to be amazing.
We use that metaphor a lot of like planting the seeds.
Yeah.
And the new moon, you can't see it. It's completely void, but you know it's there. And another term for this would be faith. You can use this in conjunction with however you see faith as, but coming off of an episode we just did about the word desire, faith also has a lot of connotations that go along with it. But faith ultimately is trusting in when you can't see.
I was going to say trusting. A lot of people might also resonate with trusting the process.
Yes. Well, that's also part of the art of the pivot, which we've also done a podcast episode on. So a lot of these are like, they're like stacking on top of each other. So if you didn't listen to the desire episode, that's a fabulous one. And the one episode where we talked about the art of pivoting, that was a live episode where
that's on our Patreon.
We can't control everything as much as we want. And
I don't want to, though.
Well, I mean, I think there's a balance, right? Like even like when we look at like our setup and things that we want to, because there's like quality control that exists out there. You know what I mean?
Right. It's
where
about like being repeatable.
Yeah, repeatable. Right. And also like there are things that are important to have control around. But the idea of like having control where, again, it goes back to your emotions and your feelings, where you have this like tightness where you like need to control. It's like something that drives you. When that starts to happen, I think it's a time for reflection because that will lead nowhere positive in the long run, maybe in the short term, right? So I think trusting the process and allowing the magic to happen and planning. I think it's good to have a plan. I like a good plan, but you just have to have room in the plan to allow for the things that you can't foresee that will happen.
Well, let's welcome everybody.
The story of our life. Welcome to Two Mystic Mamas. I think it's always good too to start a podcast episode with a question for our listeners so they can be thinking about how this applies in their life while we're talking about the whole episode.
So something you can be thinking about is, why does the mind resist what the soul wants? And I think furthermore, who told us that we needed permission before we can start something, right? That we have to know the ending, that we have to know the outcome. So be thinking about that as we're kind of going through this episode today, because I think we've all felt it at one time or another, where it's just like this overwhelming pressure. And I think that's really important to talk about. Like, are you coming from a place when you are making decisions and you're setting goals in your life? Is this from a place of fear, of control, of pressure? Or is this a place of clarity, of desire, of, connection.
Speaking from our human experiences that we're having, which is really ingrained in every episode that we put out, is depending on what career path you've gone down, conditioning exists regardless. And it's, from our environment, it's from our peers, it's from mentors, it's from the media. It basically inundates us all the time. And I think that when you're looking at starting something new and you're really feeling that pull from your soul to be more aligned, especially if you're feeling like you're in a position or in a job or in a relationship that no longer serves, is what are the conditioning habits that you can pick up on? I know for me, coming from tech, I was very conditioned to work off deadlines and work off technology platforms and work off what is the ROI and what do the stakeholders think, right? And there was a lot of times where I would find myself, because I was an empath, but I didn't have the words to understand that yet, in a place of conflict, like my brain versus my heart. Or like I was always like, I don't know what to do with this feeling, right? Just the conditioning that goes into, how did you get on the path you're on? Is it aligned? And if it's not, what are some of those conditioning things that when you sit with them, that's where your clarity will come, because you're giving that space to that topic, which is important when you're starting anything fresh, is like, why am I taking this action? Why do I feel this need coming up within my soul?
Well, I think where you're starting from is important, right? And taking all of those things into account is important. Let's just look back at the start of our podcast, right? We started our podcast because we wanted to. We had a desire to create this. I think that a lot of times people make decisions because they feel as though there is some security, safety, or certainty at the end of that rainbow. It's why people go to school for certain professions, right? But when you can be in a position, whether it's, you are in that position or you allow yourself to be in the position to start something from a spark, I don't think you have that same pressure that you have when you're like putting it all out there. And while I think, really amazing things can be formed under pressure, it's also not sustainable long term, which I think is why people end up with burnout. They end up not liking the jobs they're in, etc., because they're under pressure for so long in some place that doesn't necessarily fit for them long term. It fit a criteria of a solution they needed to fill at that moment.
I couldn't agree more. And to your point about like what system gets hit the hardest, it's the nervous system. But I feel like our nervous system is so muted for so many people that when you start awakening your nervous system, it also triggers the other systems in your body, the cardiovascular system and the respiratory system and, the lymphatic system. They all work together. And the nervous system, when you start following the path that you're supposed to take, like what is your soul's purpose? What is your soul's journey? You scratch that itch, your nervous system becomes more relaxed. And when your nervous system is relaxed, it has a domino effect on the other systems.
And this might not necessarily just have to do with your career. Like there are a lot of people that have jobs that are perfectly happy having jobs that they can leave at work. And that's it. They're an ends to a mean. And this passion, this desire comes somewhere else in their life. So just because Rachel and I feel called to have this be our career doesn't mean that that's how everybody else feels. So if you don't agree with that, there's nothing wrong with you. That's perfectly normal.
My whole thing, again, talking through lived experiences, I was working, 40, 50, 60 hours in a job away from my kids where some days were fine and then other days were not. And then when the not days started to become more of the consistency and more of the norm, that's when I'm like, this isn't fulfilling my soul. I'm not making an impact in the world. Probably 10 years into my career, that whole this is a means to an end. This is a paycheck. This is setting me up for success down the line, no longer was as important as this doesn't feed my soul. I'm not happy doing this. This is my life that I'm living right now on this planet. I want to do something that makes a fucking difference.
Right.
I don't want to just go in and be this like lemming that's like, you know, same thing day in and day out, where I don't feel like I'm changing the world in some way. So to your point, you can apply this in any way, shape, or form, what resonates. But that's how it really impacted me to join you on the journey, starting the podcast and going into entrepreneurship, because that itch could no longer be ignored. Like the signs from the universe kept getting louder. And I was like, yes.
I have a really near and dear to me friend who loves the safety that corporate brings to her life. And that's incredible for her. And she dedicates all of her time outside of that to incredible volunteer work, like making a difference. So this doesn't have to look the same for everyone. No. And I think depending on where you're at, what season in your life you're in, kids, no kids, older, younger, like it doesn't matter. There's some place that we can apply this feeling, this seed of intention that we want to plant or we feel called to plant. There's some place that we can acknowledge that in our life.
For sure. And when you start looking at what has stalled out in your life and you want an area that you want to make change, 9 times out of 10, that's going to come to the forefront of your brain pretty fast. So, because where we are now, talking kind of in past tense, is not where we were when we started the podcast, right? Oh God, so, like, this has evolved, this has changed, this has given us so many opportunities that we wouldn't have had we not taken the risk, had we not taken that leap. And we felt very strong and called to do this work together. It wasn't like you were like, I want to start a podcast. Do you want to be a guest on it? It was always like, we should start a podcast together. So I guess my point in saying all of this is, when you implement change, when you scratch that itch of, you don't know how it's going to fucking turn out, but that's not the point. The point is you're honoring something that's coming up within your soul. You're putting energy into that. If you allow the fear of not starting get to you consistently, then 1, 2, 3, 4 years, a whole lifetime will pass you by, and you'll never know the answer to that question of like, what if I would have done that?
Well, I think there are a couple different kinds of people. There are people that are afraid to start because they don't know the outcome. There are people who have no problem starting, but then what next, right? And there's people that are solely focused on that finish line, that they can literally push through any wall to get there, not really even paying attention to where they're feeling it in their body and their heart and their mind and their soul. Like, and then they get there and they've pushed through all these obstacles and done all this amazing stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, on to the next, I guess. Like, because it's about the outcome, destination, right? So I think it's really interesting because we're all so different how we apply this in just based on how we've lived our life, right? And I think about this too with, we're planting, this is a seed, right? This is a new moon. This is a seed. We're planting something that is going to gain momentum. Momentum doesn't always sustain, but you have to keep going, right? And I think another important part of this is like, yes, we're in the new moon, we're talking about starting, but what happens in the middle is important, because when we plant a seed in our garden, we know that we just have to continue to tend it. We don't dig it up and see if it's working.
Right.
We let it be. We continue the consistency. And I was talking to somebody this weekend who I had on my citrine necklace from Charlie, and she came up to me, and she's a swim mom, and I just adore her. I think she's so sweet. And she's asking me, she's like, oh, what does it mean? Like, and she's like, I have these crystals. They feel good, but I don't know what they mean. And so I was telling her about the podcast. And when I told her how long we'd be doing that, she was like, oh, that's consistency. Like that was the words that she used. And I was like, yeah, that actually like, yes, it is.
Yep.
We had no idea where this was going to take us, but here we are.
Yep. Yeah.
It's so cool.
And how it evolves in the relationship and the people, the guests that we've had on, the relationships that we're building, the networking that goes into this. It's really exciting. And it also fulfills me.
Well, right.
And it's not without its struggles. It's not without its like...
Nothing is going to be all
pivots,
rainbows and sprinkles.
Right. But I still feel so called to continue doing this work. And the other thing that's really sacred about a new moon is, yes, it's the void and you know it exists. You know the moon's still there, even though you can't see it. I keep going back to that as just a beautiful visualization of any project and then the phases that you go through. And like, to your point, there's always going to be the messy middle. And like the podcast, I don't see an end, right? It's not like I'm like, we will make it until the end. It's like, there is no end. It's just...
Yeah, 100%.
It's just the path.
Right.
So I think too, we talked about this on a podcast episode not too long ago about starting goals or having goals. And this is a conditioning thing for me too, because I was in project and program management for so long that like you always had to have an end to a project. You couldn't like propose something without the end, right? And then you had this period after where you had to go back and like track the ROI and see all these things. And it's like, is that applicable in life? You know?
I think it's applicable to the point that it helps you build trust with yourself when you are able to achieve something that you set out for. I was doing that workshop a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And she sets her goals in 90-day increments, and they don't have to be large goals. Like sometimes she has really big goals that she sets for herself. Like she wanted to finish her book in 90 days, or she wanted to double her business in 90 days. Big tangible things. And sometimes it is to knit a pair of socks. And so it's like this small task that she's doing on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And she's seeing the sock grow, right? And she's seeing the consistency happen. So I think that goals can be a way to establish new actions and new habits in our life that make us feel good, that help build trust within ourselves, because we spend so much time listening to bosses, listening to we should be doing this and you should be doing that, that I think we forget that sometimes we just have to make decisions, or we have to just start something without a map.
Yep.
Just got to go.
Well, you just got to go. And I think that goes back to like the energy and the momentum that builds, right? Because everybody's been in an experience where like the excitement of something builds on it, and then the momentum builds, and you get to that.
Each step reveals itself. You don't know what's coming next.
Right. A lot of times I go back to, how do I know that I'm still on the right path? And how am I feeling? Where am I feeling it in my body? If there's any uncertainty or an unease, like how can I work through that?
Well, I think another important piece to that, though, is if you start to feel resistance, or you start to feel a lack of momentum or something, you start to feel slow and sluggish, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not on the right path. It might mean that you need to stop, and there's something you have to learn before you can move to the next level, right? Like you don't start at level 1 in, Mario and have to face Bowser.
Right.
You got to get to the castle.
Right. And you have to die a bunch along the way.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking. Okay. But yeah, I think that that's a great way to look at it. This is your life, just like Mario.
Yeah.
So
I feel like an important part of this process is reframing mistakes, and I use air quotes when I say that, as information. So if you're in a space where you're like, oh God, I've fucked up. I fucked up my life, or I spent too much time with this person, or I spent too much time on this thing or at this job or whatever. Those aren't mistakes. Those are literally meant to be in your life, as painful as they are. Like, I look back at my past too, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of pain there.
Yep.
But I'm so glad it happened, because I would do it all over again if I meant I was right here, right now in this moment of my life.
Right.
So take all of this as information. It's information about who you are, who other people are, what feels good, what feels bad, how to honor yourself, how to honor other people. So like during this whole process, I just want people to be kinder to themselves, because starting something new and not having the answers, not having a roadmap is not easy. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that are going to listen to this and be like, nope, I'm not here. But you might listen to this in 3 years and be like, aha.
Well, that's the thing that I love about our episodes too, is because they're timeless. Like, it doesn't really give a shit when we put these out. When you listen to it is when you needed to hear it.
100%. I believe we call that evergreen.
Yeah. Yes, that is the term that they would use. It made me think of a story when I was at my last tech company. And let me tell you, working in tech, you fuck up and fail all the time, especially if you're working with a startup, because it's like, does this work? Does this not work? Is this going to be sticky? Is that not going to be sticky? Is this functionality work? You know, it's constant. You're constantly living in that. I kept using the term failing forward. And my CEO at the time she got so pissed. She's like, you have got to stop saying that. And I was like, why? She's like, because we're not failing. And I was like, oh, okay. And it like those sort of things kept happening where I was like, but we are failing. It's not a bad thing. Like right. this negative connotation around making mistakes or having things not go the way they're supposed to go. I'm just not here for it.
I just had this conversation with Evie yesterday.
Yeah.
Same thing. It was about swim, right? But it was like, she swam her first 100 fly. And she does not typically get super emotional about her races. But she got out and she was sobbing on the pool deck. And I was like, my friend looked over and she was like, I know. And she came up and she sits next to me and she just leans into me and she was like, I never want to do that again. And I was like, okay. And then we talked about it the next day. And it's like a stepping stone to the 400 IM, because you have to be able to do 100 of each stroke,
okay.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
And she did really well. Like, she did a great job at it. And she was like, but what if I fail at the 4 IM? I said, okay, so what if you fail? You're going to learn something about yourself and you're going to do better the next time. I don't care if you fail.
Yep.
Who cares if you fail?
Yep.
If anybody has a problem with you failing, fucking come at me.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
It's a part of who we are as human beings.
I know. And I think it should be embraced and cherished and encouraged.
Animals fail. Do you think that they get every single prey that they're going after?
Yeah.
No.
But
they learn how to hunt better the next time. Oh, now I'm fucking fired up. Just like imagining somebody telling her that she's a failure.
Ew.
I know. That's what she's afraid of, though. Right?
Like, that's what she's like afraid of. The biggest insult, too, right? Like, telling anybody that, like, ugh. Well, it got to the point, too, where, like, these conversations kept happening, and I kept questioning myself, you know? And it's not that questioning yourself doesn't come with, it's par for the course. Like, having someone say, you shouldn't say that, or why did you say, you know, it was just, but it was the way it kept getting delivered where I was just like, my intention is to not say it in a negative way, but also to acknowledge that it was happening. Because I think a lot of times too, you can like have rose-colored glasses on where you're just like, everything's fine, everything's peachy. And it's like, well, there's some work that probably needs to be done in XYZ places where it's not working, you know? And it's like, okay, what's not working, right? So I think to that point, you know, just how you structure the mistakes, how you structure the execution of things is a learning process.
I'm actually here for looking at failure with rose-colored glasses, if I'm honest. Because who fucking cares? Who cares? Time is a construct. money is a construct. Like, it's all fucking made up.
Mm.
So why do we even care if we are performing or not performing if we feel good?
Yeah. No.
Like, who cares?
And you talk, like, if you hear all these stories about people on their deathbeds, like some of their
Right.
final thoughts, it's not
right.
about the stuff they own. It's not
About what they achieved.
No.
It's about how they felt.
It's how they feel, and it's like the people that they love.
Yep. Like, I'm all for achieving things because you want to achieve them and you want to feel good about yourself, but you don't need them. You don't need achievements in order to be a whole, amazing, awesome person who can live a full life that they enjoy. Okay. So we're talking about gentle permission. We're talking about listening to our bodies, our soul, our minds. So what wants to be started right now? That's one easy place that you can start. I would do a free writing exercise with any of these. Just kind of sit quietly. You can write, you can do a voice memo. You can, I don't know, text a friend and be like, hey, this just came up for me. What do you think about this? Like, you can start a conversation because maybe your friend is also thinking about this, right? Where are you asking for certainty when just courage would be enough? And what would it look like to begin in devotion and not demand? Which is kind of going back to what we talked about when we started the podcast. There was no demand for us to start this other than our devotion and desire to create something that would resonate with people and make them feel like they had a set of friends that was cheering them on.
Yep.
Just have to remember that, like, you don't have to finish it, what you start.
Also true.
You just have to start listening to what's important to you.
Right. And the universe responds to movement, and the energy that you put into something will continue to give you the next steps as they need to come. So just, sit with yourself. If you pray, you can pray, and just ask for the words, ask for the idea, ask for the sign, and just allow that to flow. Don't put any pressure on yourself, because if you know that you have this desire to make a change in a certain area of your life, just giving that small thought energy will start to create that momentum. It will start to create the change that you want. It will start to expand. That's the word I'm looking for, like the expansion of.
That actually resonates with the meditation that I launched on our Patreon for people. And it's all about crossing the threshold. So if you're doing this exercise and nothing comes up for you, that's okay. It will come up for you when it's supposed to come up for you. But a lot of that was like feeling the energy of like, you're on this precipice right now. You already know what it feels like to live the life you've lived and do the things that you've done. You have no idea what it feels like to take that step and live that other life. And so it's a guided meditation to help move you through that moment.
I love that.
So if you want to hop on our Patreon, we have all of our episodes released there, full video on every Sunday. Is that right? Yeah, every Sunday.
Every Sunday except our live weeks.
Our live weeks, right.
Yeah.
We have guided meditations. We have rituals. I hear we have some magic soup coming up this month.
Yes.
We have monthly collective readings by both of us, tarot and angel cards, and to create community and to listen to each other.
Yes. And we also have an episode that is, well, by the time this comes out, it will already be live. We have a guest, a numerologist, Colby, and she also has given us some really great tangible worksheets that are also available to our Patreon subscribers as well, that they can follow along and figure out their personal individual year in conjunction with the collective year, and then also just getting some more information about what numerology is and how you can apply it to your life. So there's always really good, solid product on our Patreon. That's the whole point of our Patreon, is how do we continue to gift you guys in ways that can do self-growth, self-reflection, leaving behind the self-abandonment and moving more into the alignment that we were all supposed to walk in and be in, and self-care and all of that combined into a happy little place. Happy little place.
We truly believe in not gatekeeping anything from you guys. So our Patreon is pay what you can. We also have 3 months for free. So if you send us a message, we'd be happy to send you an invitation to that. So you can reach us via email, via our socials. It's twomysticmamas@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and we will get you your three.
And recently,
three
LinkedIn.
Woohoo!
I don't want to roll my eyes like LinkedIn, but this was another area of growth for us in talking to some other spiritual folks in our community. And they were like, that is a great platform to be pushing this. Also because it goes against the norm, right? Like we're bringing spirituality. We're normalizing working with your soul's work and not just doing what the man says. And like, that's pretty much the basis for LinkedIn is like, how do you connect on a professional career-based level? So it feels like every time I post, I'm like sticking it to the man. I feel like very like I am a trendsetter. I am like
Transcender. Transcenders.
There we go, Rachel. But I love posting on there because I know the majority of the content out there is like not what we're posting. But you know, deep down, these motherfuckers want it too.
Please tell me you posted the soaking. Just kidding.
I did not. Renee was like, what's with all the soaking? Like, ew. And I was like, did you listen to the podcast episode? And she's like, well, I saw the clip. And I'm like, no. I was like, you have to back it up. It's not even about soaking. It comes in at the last 5 minutes of the episode. Kristen brings it up. I think it's something else. It turns into this whole debacle of like, WTF. Here for all of it. All right. Well, peace out. Love one another. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.